Let's talk about something that's often swept under the rug: toxic work cultures. They exist in every industry, from bustling tech startups to established corporations. These environments can be incredibly damaging, leaving employees feeling demoralized, undervalued, and utterly silenced. But here's the thing about toxic work cultures. They thrive on secrecy. They depend on employees feeling too intimidated, too uncertain, or too alone to speak up. This silence becomes a breeding ground for negativity, allowing harmful behaviors to fester and multiply. It creates a workplace where fear reigns supreme, and innovation and genuine collaboration wither away. The truth is, most of us have encountered some form of toxicity in our professional lives. Maybe it was a boss who constantly belittled your ideas, a colleague who took credit for your work, or a pervasive atmosphere of gossip and backstabbing. Whatever form it took, it likely left you feeling drained, frustrated, and questioning your own self-worth. Staying silent in the face of toxicity might seem like the easiest path, the one that keeps the peace and protects your job security. But this silence comes at a steep price. When we repeatedly suppress our voices and shrink ourselves to fit into a toxic mold, we chip away at our own well-being. The stress of working in a toxic environment can manifest in a myriad of ways: sleepless nights, anxiety, digestive issues, and a constant sense of dread about going to work. It can spill over into our personal lives, affecting our relationships, our self-esteem, and our overall happiness. Beyond the personal toll, there are significant organizational costs associated with toxic work cultures. High employee turnover, decreased productivity, and a decline in creativity and innovation are just a few of the consequences. When people feel unsafe to voice their opinions or contribute their unique talents, the entire organization suffers. The bottom line is this: toxic work cultures hurt everyone involved: individuals, teams, and the organization as a whole. Breaking the silence is not just about individual empowerment. It's about creating healthier, more productive, and more fulfilling work environments for all. The good news is that toxic work cultures don't have to be the status quo. Change is possible, but it requires courage, strategy, and a collective refusal to accept the unacceptable. It starts with individuals finding their voices and speaking up against behaviors that are harmful and counterproductive. This doesn't necessarily mean engaging in loud confrontations or issuing ultimatums. It's about learning how to navigate these challenging situations with both strength and wisdom. It's about advocating for yourself and your well-being while also promoting a more respectful and inclusive workplace for everyone. In the following sections, we'll delve into the specific signs of a toxic work culture, explore the psychological barriers that keep employees silent, and provide you with practical strategies for safely speaking up and creating positive change. We'll empower you to reclaim your voice, set healthy boundaries, and advocate for the work environment you deserve. One of the most glaring signs of a toxic work environment is a leadership style rooted in fear and intimidation. In such settings, managers rule with an iron fist, prioritizing their own authority over the well-being and development of their team members. Mistakes are met with harsh criticism or even punishment, rather than being seen as opportunities for learning and growth. Under fear-based leadership, employees are constantly walking on eggshells, afraid to take risks, voice their opinions, or challenge the status quo. This stifles creativity and innovation, as people become more concerned with avoiding reprimands than exploring new ideas or proposing bold solutions. The workplace transforms into an environment where conformity is valued above all else, hindering both individual and organizational progress. This type of leadership fosters a culture of silence, where employees are too afraid to speak up about their concerns, report unethical behavior, or advocate for their own needs. They fear being ostracized, demoted, or even fired for daring to dissent. This creates a vicious cycle where toxic behaviors are allowed to persist and escalate unchecked and unchallenged. The impact of fear-based leadership extends far beyond the walls of the office. Employees often carry the stress and anxiety home with them, affecting their mental and physical health, their relationships, and their overall sense of well-being. It's a recipe for burnout, disengagement, and a deep sense of dissatisfaction with work. Imagine a workplace where hushed whispers and knowing glances replace open communication and genuine collaboration. This is the hallmark of a toxic work environment plagued by gossip and backstabbing. Instead of fostering trust and teamwork, these environments breed suspicion, rivalry, and an undercurrent of negativity. In such settings, information is often used as a weapon. Rumors spread like wildfire, reputations are tarnished behind closed doors, and alliances are formed based on self-preservation rather than shared goals. Employees become less focused on their work and more concerned with navigating the treacherous waters of office politics. This constant maneuvering and manipulation creates a climate of distrust and anxiety. Employees are afraid to confide in their colleagues, share their ideas openly, or seek support when they need it. They become isolated and withdrawn, eroding the very fabric of teamwork and collaboration that is essential for a thriving workplace. The culture of gossip and backstabbing is not only detrimental to individual morale, but also incredibly damaging to organizational productivity. When employees are constantly looking over their shoulders, worried about who might be trying to undermine them, they are less likely to invest their full energy and creativity into their work. Open, honest, and consistent communication is the lifeblood of any healthy organization. Conversely, a lack of transparency and clear communication is a breeding ground for toxicity in the workplace. When information is withheld, decisions are made behind closed doors, and employees are left in the dark about important matters. It breeds suspicion, distrust, and a sense of powerlessness. In such environments, rumors and speculation run rampant, filling the void left by a lack of official communication. Employees are left to decipher cryptic emails, interpret vague pronouncements from leadership, and rely on the grapevine for information about their own jobs and the future of the company. This creates a climate of uncertainty and anxiety, making it difficult for employees to feel secure, valued, and engaged in their work. Moreover, the absence of transparency makes it nearly impossible for employees to provide meaningful feedback, contribute their ideas, or hold their leaders accountable. They may witness unethical behavior, questionable decisions, or inefficient processes, but feel powerless to speak up or affect change. This creates a sense of helplessness and apathy, further fueling the cycle of toxicity. A transparent and communicative workplace, on the other hand, fosters trust, encourages collaboration, and empowers employees to perform at their best. When people feel informed, heard, and respected, they are more likely to be engaged, productive, and committed to the success of the organization. Gaslighting and manipulation are among the most insidious and damaging forms of toxicity that can plague a workplace. These tactics involve distorting reality, sowing seeds of doubt, and undermining an individual's sense of self-worth and perception in order to maintain control or avoid accountability. In a work setting, gaslighting can manifest in various ways. A manager might deny or downplay an employee's accomplishments, dismiss their concerns as oversensitivity or imagining things, or spread false information about them to colleagues. This constant barrage of manipulation can leave the victim feeling confused, insecure, and questioning their own sanity. Manipulation often goes hand in hand with gaslighting, further eroding an individual's sense of agency and confidence. This can involve guilt-tripping employees into taking on unreasonable workloads, using veiled threats to silence dissent, or creating a false sense of obligation to keep them trapped in a toxic environment. The consequences of gaslighting and manipulation can be devastating, both for the individual and the organization as a whole. Victims often experience a decline in their mental and emotional well-being, suffering from anxiety, depression, and a loss of self-esteem. They may withdraw from colleagues, disengage from their work, and become increasingly hesitant to speak up or share their ideas. Fear is a powerful silencer. In toxic work environments, it acts like an invisible hand, clamping down on employees' voices, stifling their truths, and keeping them trapped in a cycle of silence. This fear isn't irrational or unfounded. It's often deeply rooted in past experiences, observations of how others have been treated, or the very real threat of professional and personal repercussions. The fear of retaliation is perhaps the most significant barrier to speaking up. Employees witness colleagues who dared to raise concerns being sidelined, passed over for promotions, or even terminated. This sends a chilling message. Stay silent or face the consequences. The risk of losing their livelihood, especially in a precarious job market, is a risk many are unwilling to take, even if it means enduring a toxic work environment. Beyond the fear of losing their job, employees might worry about damaging their reputation or future career prospects. They may fear being labeled as a troublemaker or difficult to work with, making it harder to find new opportunities within their industry. This fear can be especially pronounced for those in highly competitive fields or those who have worked tirelessly to build their professional standing. The fear of being ostracized or targeted further compounds the dilemma. In toxic workplaces, where gossip and backstabbing run rampant, speaking out can make an employee a target of social isolation or bullying. The need for belonging and acceptance is a fundamental human desire, and the prospect of being excluded or turned against can be a powerful deterrent to speaking up. Toxicity often seeps into a workplace gradually, like a slow drip of poison. Over time, what was once considered unacceptable behavior becomes normalized, even expected. This insidious process of normalization is a key factor in why employees stay silent, as it distorts their perception of what constitutes a healthy and respectful work environment. When toxic behaviors are allowed to persist unchallenged, they become ingrained in the fabric of the organization. New employees, unaware of any other reality, may accept these behaviors as just the way things are and conform to the dysfunctional norms. Even those who initially recognize the toxicity may find themselves gradually desensitized, their own boundaries slowly eroding under the weight of the status quo. This normalization is often reinforced by a culture of silence. When no one speaks out against inappropriate behavior, it sends a tacit message that it's acceptable, even expected. This can be particularly damaging when those in positions of authority engage in or condone toxic behavior, setting a negative example that permeates the entire organization. The language used within the workplace can further contribute to the normalization of toxicity. Euphemisms and minimizing language are often employed to downplay or excuse harmful actions. For example, a manager who consistently berates and belittles their team might be described as passionate or having high standards, masking the true nature of their abusive behavior. Toxic work environments are breeding grounds for self-doubt. They chip away at employees' confidence, making them question their own perceptions, abilities, and even their sanity. This erosion of self-worth can be incredibly paralyzing, making it even harder for individuals to speak up and advocate for themselves. Gaslighting, a particularly insidious form of manipulation, plays a significant role in fueling self-doubt. This tactic involves distorting reality, denying facts, and planting seeds of doubt in the victim's mind. In a work setting, a gaslighter might deny an employee's accomplishments, downplay their contributions, or spread false information about them to colleagues. Over time, this constant barrage of manipulation can make the victim question their own judgment and sanity. They may start to believe that they are indeed too sensitive, overreacting, or imagining things, as the gaslighter has insisted. This self-doubt can be incredibly isolating, making it difficult for the victim to confide in others or seek support. Even in the absence of outright gaslighting, toxic work environments often create a climate of fear and uncertainty that can breed self-doubt. When employees are constantly criticized, micromanaged, or made to feel inadequate, it's easy for their confidence to dwindle. They may start to second-guess their abilities, hesitate to share their ideas, and become increasingly risk-averse, fearing further criticism or rejection. One of the most insidious aspects of a toxic work environment is the illusion of isolation it creates. Employees often suffer in silence, unaware that others are experiencing similar challenges or harboring the same unspoken concerns. This sense of isolation can be incredibly disempowering, making individuals feel like they are alone in their struggles and that speaking up is futile. This perceived isolation is often by design. Toxic leaders thrive on division and discord, as it prevents employees from uniting and challenging the status quo. They may pit colleagues against each other, foster a culture of competition over collaboration, or actively discourage employees from discussing their salaries, workloads, or concerns about the workplace. Fear further reinforces this sense of isolation. Employees who witness colleagues being punished or ostracized for speaking up are less likely to reach out to others, fearing that they too could become targets. This creates a vicious cycle of silence and isolation, where individuals feel trapped and powerless to change their situation. When it comes to addressing toxic work environments, documentation is your most valuable ally. It provides concrete evidence of the issues at hand, protecting you from accusations of exaggeration or fabrication. Meticulous record-keeping can be the difference between feeling powerless and having a strong foundation from which to advocate for yourself and potentially others. Start by keeping a detailed log of any incidents that contribute to the toxic atmosphere. Include dates, times, locations, and the names of everyone involved. Don't just focus on blatant acts of aggression or misconduct, also document subtle forms of toxicity like dismissive comments, microaggressions, or instances of exclusion. Remember, patterns of behavior are often more revealing than isolated incidents. If you receive any emails, memos, or other written communication that supports your claims, save them in a secure location. These documents can serve as irrefutable evidence of a hostile work environment or unethical behavior. It's also wise to save any performance reviews or feedback that contradict the toxic narrative, highlighting your contributions and professionalism. Don't underestimate the power of your own memory. Directly after a concerning incident, take some time to jot down your recollections in as much detail as possible. These contemporaneous notes, even if brief, can be invaluable later on, as memories tend to fade or become distorted over time. In a toxic work environment, choosing your battles strategically is crucial. Not every instance of toxicity warrants confrontation. Sometimes it's more prudent to observe, document, and bide your time. Focus on addressing patterns of behavior and systemic issues rather than isolated incidents. Consider the potential risks and benefits of speaking up in each situation. Speaking up effectively in a toxic work environment involves knowing how and to whom you say it. Human resources can be a valuable resource, but approach with realism as they may prioritize the company. If concerned about confidentiality, seek external advice from a labor lawyer or trusted mentor. Confide in a trusted manager or mentor known for their integrity and fairness. They may offer guidance, a listening ear, or advocate for you behind the scenes. When addressing toxic behavior, how you frame your concerns matters. Use I statements to express your perspective without blaming others. Frame concerns in a solution-oriented manner to show you're seeking improvement. Maintain a professional demeanor, avoiding emotional outbursts or personal attacks. Stick to the facts and focus on finding constructive solutions. One voice can be dismissed, but a collective voice holds power. Build a network of support among colleagues who share your concerns. Have open conversations with trusted colleagues about your experiences. Explore collective action, such as approaching HR as a group or drafting a joint letter. Collective action amplifies your message and fosters solidarity. Despite your efforts, sometimes toxic patterns persist. Acknowledge the limits of your influence within a resistant system. Recognize that you can't single-handedly fix deeply ingrained cultural problems. Sometimes the most empowering choice is knowing when to walk away. This realization can be difficult, especially if you've invested significant time and energy. Remember, you are not responsible for the actions or inactions of others. Continuing to fight a losing battle can be emotionally and physically draining. Holding on to false hope can keep you tethered to a toxic environment longer than is healthy. When a toxic work environment persists, it's time to protect yourself. Walking away isn't giving up, it's prioritizing your well-being. Your health, happiness, and sanity are worth more than any job. Staying in a toxic environment erodes your self-worth and saps your energy. The decision to leave is rarely easy, but you don't owe anyone an explanation. Explore your options, update your resume, and network with contacts. Many have navigated similar situations and emerged stronger and happier. Even when leaving a toxic workplace, you can leave a legacy of positive change. Consider sharing your experiences with trusted colleagues or writing a farewell letter to management. Use exit interviews to provide honest and constructive feedback. Focus on systemic issues and patterns of behavior. Your voice can serve as a catalyst for change and empower others to speak up. Leaving a toxic work environment is an opportunity for a fresh start. Take time for self-care, process your emotions, and rebuild your confidence. Seek out workplaces that prioritize employee well-being and open communication. Do your research, ask thoughtful questions during interviews, and trust your instincts. The experience of enduring a toxic work environment can be a catalyst for growth. Embrace the lessons learned and step confidently into a brighter future. Speaking up against toxicity creates a ripple effect. Every act of courage chips away at the walls of silence. Your voice can embolden others to share their experiences and demand better. Remember, you are not alone in this fight. Your story can be a lifeline for someone struggling in a toxic environment. Even small acts of resistance can plant seeds of awareness and inspire change. Creating healthy work cultures requires collective effort. Individuals must cultivate self-awareness, set boundaries, and recognize their worth. Organizations must shift from fear-based control to empathy and authentic connection. Invest in training programs that promote emotional intelligence and respectful communication. Create clear channels for reporting misconduct and ensure accountability. Strive for a workplace where everyone feels safe, respected, and valued. The journey to dismantle toxic work culture starts with speaking up. Recognize that your voice and well-being matter. Find your unique way to make a difference and be a force for positive change. Support colleagues, advocate for policy changes, or leave a toxic workplace. Commit to fostering a respectful and supportive environment within your team. Your voice has the power to create ripples of change and inspire others.